Okay. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here today. And I was just listening to some of the places in Colorado, and I don't know most of them. I know Denver. I was at Golden yesterday, and I went on the tour at the brewery. I was in Morrison also yesterday, and Red Rocks, and that's pretty spectacular. For an East Coast person, I've never seen anything quite like that, so that was really pretty special. So I'm really happy to be here today. I'm coming here to talk about something that probably might be a little different than what this group has been talking about in terms of community solar or solar garden work you're doing in that model. And I'm hoping, and I guess we're all hoping, that we can combine the best parts of each of them and form something that really will be strong and viable and can be used here in Colorado and hopefully other parts of the country. And I really hope that we can do something similar in Maryland. We right now have a new net metering law, so we have the ability to buy and sell electricity, and if we have excess, we can actually get money back from our utility, and that was just put in place last year, and they're still working on doing rulemaking, but we will have that in place. I'm the president of the University Park Community Solar. There's someone in Washington, D.C., by the name Anya Schoolman. Some of you may know. She's a real community organizer, and she started working in her community to do a solar community project. I was doing some energy auditing for some of the families in that area, and I went to a meeting or two and thought, why can't we do the same thing here in my town, which is called University Park. It's a little suburb outside of Washington. It's a very heavily treed suburban area. There's relatively poor solar access to a lot of houses. My house has a big tree, it also faces in the wrong direction, so it's got poor orientation. So we thought, we can't do what they want to do in Washington. Washington, they were going to put it on each of their roofs, and they have these row houses with flat roofs and really not many trees around them, so it's like an ideal place to do solar. So we thought, let's see if we can come up with an alternative. And we thought, why not try finding a local site, a school, some other place nearby that has a really good solar access. And we started thinking about doing right on our community school, which has about 1.25 acres of really prime space up there. Long and short is that we weren't able to do it on the school because we had a problem with the school board, and we're still working through that, and we think maybe next year we'll finally have a project there. In the meantime, what we decided to do is look around other places, and our local church, which is the University Park. I'm kind of skipping forward, but I'll go here for a second. That's the Church of the Brethren, and this became our host site. It's not a very large church. The roof isn't really large. It's only, like I think you may have already heard, it's only a 22 kilowatt system. So compared to what you're doing out here, this is like a little drop in the bucket. I think the size is less important than I think just the model the financial model we came up with, and I think that is one of the first in the country, and I think that's where maybe its strength and its value lie. And our group decided if there was why we wanted to do this, we wanted to make it available to, let's say, like families of moderate means. We weren't looking really for a bank or someone to come in and bankroll the thing. We also wanted to do it, like I said before, where there wasn't really good solar access. And in the east, we have lots of trees and lots of issues and a lot of problems in regular big urban communities and not in the more suburban communities. We thought it was really important to make it be a for-profit because we just didn't think we could raise the money if we were going to ask people for donations or do it that way. There has to be, I think, an incentive, and the incentive is to some profit. And we weren't looking to make a huge amount of money, but something that people say, yeah, I'd rather put this in here than put it in a CD right now. We also thought that it was really important, and this is why we started talking to Joy and other people, if we were successful, to spread the word and give people the opportunity to do what we're doing. And we've made our information available to anybody who wants it. We spent about $13,000, which was a lot for our group, because we really had no money, on lawyers' fees just to get our documents together. but we have now made available to anybody. I've talked to numerous people, and just we'll send them this 3 or 4 documents we put together, and if you can use them, fine. If you can't, that's fine too, or you want to modify them a little bit. And that's the church. That's the north side, so that's the side that faces the street, but is not the side that you want to use. That's the other side, and there's the entire 22 kilowatts, 99 panels. We've pretty much filled up the space there, and because we had, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, about some issues about financing this and staying within security laws, we may not have been able to do a much larger project. So that first project we were talking about doing, which would have been on the school, which might have been 125 kilowatts, we probably wouldn't have been able to raise enough money. And we were even thinking at that time about maybe doing it in stages, because we thought we might not be able to raise enough money because we'd only be able to get so many investors. The key players are the 3. It's the LLC, the organizing group, and the fundraiser, the Church of the Brethren, which is the host site, and then we use Standard Solar, which is a solar company that's based in Maryland and has been doing a lot of projects in that area. Those were our 3. And anytime if you have any, probably a lot of this is, I know this audience is pretty savvy in terms of solar, so I may be telling you some things that, tell me to just move on. But if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them at any time. The documents I was talking about that we developed and we're giving out freely to anybody who wants them is, we have a prospectus, which is just basically a 2 or 3 page description of what we were doing, and we would give that to a potential investor and to try to let them know what they were getting involved in, what we were trying to do, some of our basic objectives, and give them some basic information. And that's actually a pretty important document in a way, because when I talk about a couple minutes about the security laws, that document is kind of necessary to help you describe and also to prove, for instance, how you went about getting the investor group. Because the security laws are really pretty strict in some regards. The operating agreement is about a 15-page document between the members or the investor group, and that just sort of lays out what your board's going to be about, what you're trying to do, all the requirements of that group, and how you'll operate with one another. Power purchase agreement, you're probably all aware of, and that was between our host site and us. And we worked on that for several months because the church, very small congregation, they only have about 45 people in the actual whole church. They don't have a lot of money, and so they want to really be careful what they were doing. And since this was brand new and nobody had done it before, they wanted to be really careful. And they went through that document with a fine-tooth comb, and they had their own lawyer. And I even got a little frustrated after a while because it seemed like it was taking so long. But in the long run, it actually ended up being a really good document. The installation contract is pretty straightforward. It's just between us and the installer. We raised the money, and they had a couple draws. By the time the project was over, we had given them the entire amount. We had raised 100% before we even started the project, so we weren't worrying about coming up with a loan or anything. We had our $130,000 in the bank before we even started the project. The subscription agreement, and this is the thing, we're going to talk a little bit about the security laws. Each state has security laws, and in Maryland, they have some requirements which restrict the way you can develop an investor group and what you can do. We have, in the state of Maryland, if you have what's called an unsophisticated investor, you can pull 35 of those together or less. If you have 36, you have violated the law. Now you can have any number of sophisticated investors, and that means people that have a net worth of over a net worth of over $1 million, or a combined family income of over $200,000 a year. If you have 6,000 of those in 36 unsophisticated investors, 6,000 is fine. The 36th member in your group, the investor group, that's what's going to cause you a problem. And they do that to protect people so they don't get scammed, or you don't have some kind of a Ponzi scheme going on. And we thought, well, maybe there's some way we could get around it. And for 2 years, we were looking for ways around it, and we found out you really can't do it. So people told us early on, you're going to have a problem with that, and we found that out. Fortunately, we had a pretty small project, so we were able to actually raise our $130,000 with the group of 35, and it averaged about $4,000 apiece. Our minimum for our investors was, if you want to participate, you have to put in about $2,000. You can put as much as you wanted in, but the minimum was $2,000. We're a very democratic organization. Regardless of how much money you put in, you get one vote. So our biggest investor put in $15,000. I and a lot of other people put in $2,000. We all have one vote when we go to our annual meetings. Yes?
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you a little bit. So your $15,000 investor still had one vote?
Yes.
Okay.
However, when we divide up the monies that we're making, when we have our, whatever profits we're making, that person would get 7.5 times as much as I'm getting, and that's fair. But in terms of voting, we decided it would be one vote per one investor. And our investor group, we proposed that, and they said that's fine, so that's the way we're doing it. This is the aerial view of the church, and this is just looking down, and you can see the, it's a little bit not so good, but anyway, that's the 99 panels. There's one missing there, and everybody asks why that's missing, and there's a little drain or a vent that comes up out of the roof, and there's a sacristies below there for, I think, the baptistry or something, so they had to leave that vacant. Everything about it is pretty straightforward. The panels were just kind of off-the-shelf panels, nothing very fancy about any of the technology. We used a couple inverters. The panels, the only difference when what we originally were going to use was we decided we wanted to go American. So we chose actually a Japanese company that makes them in Tennessee. So it was Chinese company, but American-made product versus Japanese product versus a Chinese product, but it was American-made, and it cost us a few $1,000s more, but we thought we should do it that way. We think the LLC will. This is what some of the costs: $133,000 for the set of panels. I think we were paying a little over $5 a watt at that time, and I know it's come down since then. I think we'll get a better price next time we do another project. LLC, we think we'll make our investment back in about year 6 or 7, and we're getting things like the solar energy credits. We took advantage of the federal grant, and we got $40,000 back in year 1, so that was redistributed amongst our members. We actually have an excess of energy there. The church does not use a lot of electricity. We actually generate about 25% more than they use. We'll get that back from our utility, Pepco, we hope in the spring of this year. Let's see, so there was the renewable energy, the SRECs, the sale of electricity, also sale of electricity to the church. And we were selling it to the church at several cents. I think right now there's going to be about 2 cents below what they're paying their utility. Next time we do a project, we're going to basically give it to whatever group for the price of the electricity and the distribution costs we're going to write off. So instead of like, we're talking to someone right now, louder? Okay. I just have a very quiet voice. I'll try to talk up. We have the next group we're talking to right now, they have a utility rate of 14 cents a kilowatt hour, and we're going to give it to them for about 9. We still think we can make a profit and give the advantage to the solar, to the host site.